Calls me in order to join us to stand for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry for starting a little tardy today. We had our first session with our department heads, and it kind of ran over a little bit, but it was very productive, and I think we're going to continue that in a orderly fashion probably. So, first thing on the agenda is the approval of payroll for March 23rd and April the 6th, 2015.
Make the motion.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Claims, March the 19th, March the 26th, and April the 2nd, 2015.
Move to approve claims March 19th, March 26th, and April 2nd, 2015.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And the approval of the employee benefit fund distribution for March of 2015. Motion. Second. And a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Dave Hollenbeck, an ordinance establishing a fund for the distribution of Bicentennial Nature Trust grant proceeds. This will be first reading, and this is an ordinance.
Yes, it is. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Walter and I are before you in a drill you've done before. We have a county auditor that insists that we do what the State Board of Accounts says we should do.
That's what you introduced.
Right, that's right, okay. Walter has been incredibly successful, as you know, in securing grant money for park activity in this county. We've been very fortunate to have received a number of these grants. As the money comes in, the State Board of Accounts wants a freestanding separate fund created for each of the grant monies so they can be segregated, and then we pay bills out of that fund. You may be aware of it, the Bicentennial Nature Trust was a concept that our previous governor Daniels came up with to help celebrate the bicentennial of this state in next year, I think, 16th. It involved combining state money with, I believe, Lilly Foundation money to come up with about $30 million. About $30 million that then is available to local communities to seek grants, principally in the area of land preservation and land acquisition. Walter has been successful in securing these grants to acquire parkland here in Porter County. We are before you today in continuation of that drill, specifically the Bicentennial Nature Trust grant monies need a home. And the ordinance that's before you today would create that home and facilitate our ability to work with the auditor to deposit the proceeds into that fund. And then I have the check in the file. And then we will distribute that pursuant to a claim form that we'll prepare and bring it to Vicki, and then will be approved by you as part of the claims that you every month. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them. This is something we've done in the past. It's kind of routine, and it does keep us in compliance with the way the State Board of Accounts wants these things handled.
How much is the check?
$150,000. I could have looked, but I knew the email. $150,000.
Very good. Okay, so what we need to do is open a public hearing in regards to this matter, and if those people who want to talk, opportunity to do so. So we'll open a public hearing in regard to the ordinance establishing a fund for the distribution of Bicentennial Nature Trust grant proceeds. And the way this works is we'll first ask people if they want to speak in favor of it. Then if we have people that want to speak in opposition of it, we'll hear both sides and give Attorney Hollenbeck a chance for rebuttal. And then we'll close the public hearing portion, and the commissioners will ask questions if they so desire, and then we'll vote. So, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this? Yes. Good.
My name is Rich Hudson. As a citizen, I would like to thank the Park Department for all that they do, and as a board member on the Park Board, I would like to say keep up the good work, Walter. I'm in favor of this
ordinance?
Favor of the fund or favor of taking the money?
I'm taking the money all the time.
Very good. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Last time, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this ordinance? The public hearing is closed. Commissioners, input, questions, statements?
Good job.
Okay, we need a motion then to approve the ordinance on first reading.
I'll make the motion to approve the ordinance establishing a fund for the distribution of bicentennial nature trust grant receipts on first reading.
Second. Motion and a second, and because this does involve funds, it will require a second reading. We cannot waive the rules to do that. So the motion and a second, all those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll hear the second reading at our next meeting.
Thank you.
You have another one for us, on a resolution supporting Belleville Lakes Area Conservancy District application for bicentennial nature trust grant.
Yes, speaking of the Bicentennial Nature Trust program, the Valparaiso Lakes Area Conservancy District, much like the Board of County Commissioners, has been concerned about and interested in the preservation and the protection of wetlands throughout the county. Indeed, I hate to admit it, but I think I was the only one that was around it. Back in 1993, the Board of County Commissioners and the Conservancy District jointly adopted a comprehensive wetland preservation and protection ordinance that is now codified in your code. And that's one way to preserve wetlands, and that's to allow them to remain in private ownership and regulate them. Another way to protect and preserve wetlands is to buy them, is to acquire them. And that's what this is all about. Bob Garman is with me today. Bob is the current chairman of the governing board of the Valparaiso Lakes Area Conservancy District. We have an opportunity through contact with some folks to acquire a little over 8 acres, most of which is wetlands, immediately adjoining and south of Flint Lake. They are vitally important in preserving and protecting the quality of the water that comes from the Litzenberger drain through that wetland into Flint Lake. And of course, Flint Lake is an important recreational lake and wildlife area just north of Valparaiso. With that in mind, and knowing about the Bicentennial Nature Trust, in fact, Stu Summers, who happens to live next to the wetlands, has been helpful to us. We're going to be making application. The deadline is May 1st to have half the funding of the acquisition of the property paid for through the Bicentennial Nature Trust. And we're looking for support. It is a numerical grading system that they use to decide allocation of the funds. And you people, candidly, are important in terms of supporting it and getting us some points on that process. The amount of money we're seeking is $50,000 to help acquire the wetlands. And we're very fortunate because although this came in the 60s, this land was actually platted and is recorded as a subdivision. And we don't want that to happen. And I think it's 88 recorded lots. And I'm not going to tell you they could build on every one of them, but they probably could put 25 or 30 homes in there. And we don't want that to happen. We want to protect it. And we have owners, fortunately, who don't want that to happen now either. So they're willing to sell it to us. We don't have to use condemnation to acquire it. We've had it appraised. We've agreed on a price. Now we're hoping that the Bicentennial Nature Trust will help us with 50% of that cost. And we're looking for your support today to help us with the application. I was presumptuous enough to prepare a resolution that I think Betty has looked at and I think is in your materials, whereby you express your interest in and your history of protecting and preserving wetlands in Porter County, and that the acquisition of this property would be consistent with that, and that you are supportive of the application that will be filed.
You're just asking for our support, I always ask this question. Who's going to manage the funds? I mean, how will we manage it?
The funds will not be managed very long because we'll be acquiring the grant and closing on the property probably within a day or two. So the money will come into us and then we'll pay for the land to the landowner with the money. An important question, John, is who's going to manage the land once we acquire, right? Okay, and that's more, candidly, that's more problematic. I mean, we can't let that prevent us from going forward. This is too important of a piece of property to acquire. But we're going to have to talk about that from the board's perspective. The answer is the Conservancy District's going to manage it, but we're going to have to figure out the most cost-effective way to do that, and to what extent we're going to have to add any cost to our budgeting process in order to do it. It's obviously not going to be developed. In fact, part of the Bicentennial Nature Trust is you have to convey a conservation easement back to DNR. So that will prevent any development of the land, so it probably won't be real expensive to maintain, but we had to, when it was still called JF New, it's now called Carnell, I think it is.
Carnell.
Okay, thank you. They did a study of it, and they found it was very important to keep the land for wetlands purposes. There's a little bit of upland on the property, a couple of acres, and they found some invasive species that are not natural to the area that have found their way in, and that's the kind of thing we probably want to eradicate in some type of program to preserve it and protect it in its natural form. So there will be some maintenance expenses. We're not anticipating a lot, but we understand that it's important that it be maintained.
I guess that was the gist of my question. In doing this, you give the statement to the DNR, there's no possibility that down the road, the new board of directors come in and the piece of property is sold to the commercial entity.
Well, first thing I'd say is over my dead body, right? But the day's going to come when it is going to be a dead body, right? So into the future, you're right, and that's why the trust provides and requires that a conservation easement be conveyed back to the state, which is a recorded document that limits the use and the conveyance of the property. And it into perpetuity then, it is not to be developed or used in any type of intensive type activity. I'm not sure of this, but from my park board experience, I think we can make like walking trails. We can do some low intensity type on the property and not violate the easement, but we can't be, building ballparks and soccer fields.
Is this the only undeveloped area left on the list?
No, there are still some others, and in fact, Rich Hudson is helping us with this. As a surveyor, we're going around the whole lake and identifying parcels that could be acquired in this technique versus the regulatory technique. And we're finding some. Not to digress farther than you need, but again, if you go back as long as I do, back to the old Kilmer-Fraser Water Company property, when they went broke, Alan Whitman was involved in that from Lowenstein's. That property sat on the rolls for years and finally was conveyed to the Conservancy District when Alan's wife died. In her will, she gave that property to the Conservancy District. So we acquired quite a bit of land, because that was mostly, Kilmer-Fraser would develop a piece of property at Flint Lake, and then what was left, back in those days we called them swamps, they just wouldn't do anything to it, just would hold on to it. Well, we now have acquired that, and we're inventorying that and determining the quality of the wetlands. And there's now, with, again, help from the old JF New people, there's things you can do. There's a lot of talk about destroying wetlands, but there's also things you can do to make them better and preserve them and protect them, and that's one of the things that the Conservancy District is heavily involved in as we try to preserve. And that, we're hoping, again, from this, we'll get some points for this grant because we're trying to protect a state asset, Flint Lake, which is a freshwater lake of the state of Indiana, and this is an effort to protect it.
And you're pretty confident with your request for funds from the grant that you'll be accepted?
Well, I stopped predicting what the state of Indiana will do or not do a long time ago. We're working with Stu Summers, and because he's done these before, and it's due May 1st. they're really upfront. They give you the schedule, they use how many points for everything, and we certainly believe we are in the ballpark. One of the advantages to this is people like Walter have accessed the fund for large sums of money. By the way that the state looks at it, $50,000 is a pretty small request from the fund, and that's kind of where they're left of the $30 million. They're kind of looking for these smaller projects now. They've kind of done most of the big ones they're going to do, so we're hopeful that will be advantageous for us as well. We're cautiously optimistic.
So we need to approve a resolution supporting this application. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you. The only other request I would have is we are on a rather tight deadline. If I could leave here with a signed resolution, I've got a couple of extra ones, and I can get it in the packet if it needs to go downstate.
Just make sure that, oh, we got some.
Black or blue from the winner?
Thank you.
Thank you, David. You have one for your record, for your file. Okay. Yeah, we need this. Okay, Lee Westergaard, Hand County Chair, Troy Scott, from R&R Benefits, give about that. Where are we at that one? Yeah, I think it's Whack. Yep. Whack. It's something.
Okay, all right. Thank you, commissioners, for having us today. I will be as brief as humanly possible. You have in front of you, I believe, an agenda of things that we're going to talk about. I want to give you some updates, and then there are some things that I'm going to ask for consideration of. Some enhancements to the plan, as you are aware, because these were part of the presentation by Steve Brady a couple months ago. I want to let you know that we have enhanced pre-certification with the county's plan. Previously, it was just inpatient procedures needed to be pre-certified, but now we have included outpatient therapy and cancer. So Identico is going to be monitoring those things very closely, and there is a part of the amendment that we'll be talking about that pertains to pre-certification. We've included a maintenance RX program, which employees take certain, they have conditions and they take certain medications and they qualify, then they would be able to get these maintenance prescriptions at a zero copay. And just so you know, the qualification process starts with a phone call to Identico, and after an interview, then Identico contacts the providers, and then at that point, if the person is legally compliant, the pharmacy benefit manager will be notified, and that person will be allowed to have those prescriptions at zero copay. There is some discussion right now, which I would ask your consideration of, that the process takes 30 days approximately for a person to qualify for that program. So I'm not sure how that should be handled. If you would consider retroactively honoring the program, or if you would like to have that go into effect on the day that a person, finishes the verification process. This person would essentially pay for a month of the prescription that they're later going to qualify to get at zero copay.
This would be like cholesterol drugs and blood pressure medications. What's going to be the easiest thing for the provider?
Honestly, I think it would probably be the easiest if the person just qualified when they qualify. It's going to be hinging on whether providers are responsive to the call from Identico, and, the county's supposed to be doing that. If providers aren't, I don't know that the county will know to go back and do that. So it's really leave it as is, actually, you don't need to make a motion. Okay, moving on. As you know, we, have been working on, creating preferred agreements with, Porter Regional Hospital System and Franciscan Alliance. We have, Troy is gonna talk about the Porter Regional Hospital one, and you have a copy of the, agreement from Franciscan Alliance, which they are giving for our consideration. They have agreed to very, good terms. With the reference-based pricing, the out-of-network concept has been eliminated. I'm still just giving you guys updates on the plan as it turned over on April 1st. So we no longer have an out-of-network concept with hospitals and facilities because of the reference-based pricing. There's going to be negotiations for every that letter of agreement that I was referring to from Franciscan Alliance. I apologize, I thought that you guys had a copy of that. Okay, that's all right, I will, doesn't need to be signed today. Okay, it's just for your consideration. We have had several department meetings to talk about the new plan and explain the changes, and have two more today, several others this week and next week, and I have been personally contacting each department head asking to have their department, because I think it's very important that the employees understand the process if they receive a balanced bill on the facility or hospital, and how important it is that they contact Stuart C. Miller, who will then get the ball rolling with Identico. So I am making sure that every person knows about that process. We have a lunch and learn scheduled for later this month, and I included a copy of the letter just for your information. So in your packet, you will see that there is an amendment number 2 to the Porter County Health Plan. This amendment responds to all of the changes that went into place on April 1st. The change in the PPO, the change in the claims address, as the claims will go directly to Medico, the addition of the cancer care management program, revisions of wording for certain items, addition of wording regarding reference-based rates, change in coinsurance for preferred facility hospital charges, removal of the out-of-network 50% coinsurance, and amendment to pre-certification. In regards to the pre-certification, there is something that needs to be decided by the Board of Commissioners. Currently, if a person fails to pre-certify, there is a penalty assessed. The county can continue with assessing a penalty, $250 for certain things. You have two copies. So what you have is a copy of the amendment, and then on the last page, you have a separate page of the last page. So there are two choices. You could do penalties for not pre-certifying, or claims that are not pre-certified can be flat out denied. That would be the only real decision that needs to be made as far as the amendments to the plan are concerned. Once you decide which route you'd like to go in regards to pre-certification and sign the amendment, each employee will receive a copy of the plan amendment, which should go with the plan document. The county's plan in compliance.
I don't have any problem with any of those except for the outpatient hospice care. I mean, that's going a little far, isn't it?
By requiring that to be
Yeah.
pre-certified?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the person that's going on that type of care is gonna have been in medical type of experience before they get there, so, just kind of, a little bit much. That's the only one that I find objectionable.
Is this a package, you have to take them all, or is it?
Not necessarily. These are the recommendations of the, those people who handle these kinds of things, that these are the things that should be pre-certified. And really, the pre-certification is just another cost containment issue. We've had certain issues in the past where people went into like outpatient rehab, out of state, and, the pre-certification wasn't a requirement, and it ended up costing the county a great deal of money. So this is just one more mechanism to put into place to try to control all of those costs.
Yeah, and like I say, I don't object to any of the other ones, but I think it's pretty hard to collect that one simply because.
Well, you have the option of either applying penalties, and you can remove the penalty on that one you had all these penalties already in place. But we have enhanced the pre-certification. So in the past, all that had to be pre-certified was inpatient.
So it's an addendum then to the agreement?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what this whole thing is, just an amendment and the, you know, officializing of those decisions that were made previously by this board. But it was posed to me that, you know, the commissioners could choose to deny claims or penalize claims that were not certified. Right now, they're.
Personally, I'd entertain a motion to go ahead with the penalties with the exception of the outpatient hospice care.
Part of your talking with the departments regarding what they want with their needs.
It's really the only way we can keep a handle on this, because what happens is people go to the hospital, and they go, I'm in the hospital, I have to call them out, and you really do. I mean, this is part of what we had to do so that our people had skin in the game. So this is part of their skin. They need to know that we got pre-certified for hospital or hospitalization in their states, and their medical equipment. I mean, you know, you have to be able to say that this is approved or it's not. You can only do that if they pre-certify it, if they pre-certify those their parents.
With the communication, and the education, they're gonna know this, but also the providers are very familiar with many of the categories, and they know that they have to be considered as well, even when it comes down to the hospitals. But
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be the guy that had to collect it.
And there is time, a person who's in the hospital, you know, has 32 hours.
Sure.
Well, I think everybody knows I voted against the medical commission. What I would ask of you and Anton is that it seems I keep showing up to these meetings and I keep getting information put in front of me 30 minutes before I have to vote on things. And I think that the communication from our insurance overview person that we have here, I would like to see this information at least come to me in a little bit more timely manner with some explanation or some options and some, you know, like you're doing in front of us now. I understand you're gonna have to do that either way in a public meeting, but to have this stuff put in front of me now, or when I show up on the day of the meeting, I'm just becoming more and more uncomfortable with that. Because I take my action very seriously here, and I think that I think all three of us are sort of privileged to have some of this information here a little bit prior to before we vote on it. So I would ask if you could at least do that for me and the other two commissioners, so I can have some time to look at this and ask questions and understand what's going on.
I agree, but there are certain times that we need to go ahead and follow through on, you know, these types of things. We're already in the contract, it's just establishing a dollar amount, what have you.
Well, I agree with what Jeff said, but I think we need to move forward on this. So, I'll make the motion to, assess the penalties as listed without the outpatient hospice.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, sign. Motion carries. And you want this one signed, right?
So I talked a little bit about Magellan RX.
All right, Commissioner, along those lines, comments would probably be more timely. I just want to bring you up to speed of where we are with Magellan, which is a PBM that we're looking at to start working with. We work with all the data to do the in-depth analysis.
And what is this for again? This is for
The PBM, the pharmaceutical.
pharmaceutical, okay, thank you.
We looked at the data from last year, we analyzed the data, we applied repricing, and if there's anything else you gotta find out, you know, large chains that you know of are included, with this group. All the local, pharmacies, we have yet to find one that is not. If there were one that pops up, we can, get them included, get the credential very quickly. So the impact is something that we look at and make sure that we're not affecting the neighborhood in that way, because as we discussed earlier, compliance is key. We gotta get in their hands so they can be compliant. So, as of right now, we don't know of any pharmacy in the area that we can include.
I think it sounds pretty much along the guidelines of our charge that we need to do it with the best possible form and the least possible expense.
Sure.
Was there other pharmaceutical companies that were approached on this contract, or were there?
We looked at the incumbents and, we looked at.
Which is the company, oh, it's you, okay.
And we looked at this group, as well.
And no other groups, just those two?
We looked at those, and just kind of based off of the knowledge and how we work with, we kind of know what we work in this market and the analysis. So,
That's part of what we pay them for, is to do the shopping for us, because this is a service, and service does not have to be bid. And people don't quite understand that, but it's, when you're talking about a service, we do the shopping and we find the best carrier, simply because most of these things are proprietary. People don't want you to know what they, one pharmacy, chain or pays for a drug when somebody else pays something different, so that's typically why it's classified that way. So I guess we need a motion to tell you to pursue the pharmacy contract.
I would need a motion.
Well, he wants permission to continue
Well, I just,
vetting them.
and now that I'm how far we're gonna get, this, what?
No, I'm still the floor on this. I wasn't expecting to come in here with a vote on pharmaceutical.
Oh,
No.
we're not having to.
So then what are we doing?
Continue to vet the pharmacy.
And we need a vote for that?
Or an acknowledgement, or, how far we'll be confused.
Well, he just wants to make sure, I mean, we've told him, that we don't wanna hear this stuff unless we have notice, but now he wants to know if it's okay to continue on the path that he's on.
They can bring it back on April 20th to present to you for your consideration.
Take all steps necessary to procure a safe pharmaceutical contract by the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, office holders and department heads. Sheriff Reynolds, generator maintenance agreement, alternative energy solutions. Okay. How are you?
Good, how are you? Yes, yes, it is, and I apologize for that, I've never seen the bill, so I had no idea what it was. I've only seen it one other time, and it is, I did talk to maintenance, from here, and talked it over with them, and they said they would like the company was reasonable price. I did call the JUP center, because they have the same company, and they're lower price. I called X, Y, for something cheaper and bigger, and, talked to Jerry, and he said, yes, the company is who we really want to go with, they're the closest in the area. We've done a dealt with someone before, it took a couple hours to get to it. The two different prices on there is, one is for, they recommend both, and so does the maintenance. One is for them to come in, do oil change and a check, and then the next one is a check, because once a year is really not enough time to do it. So it's not, we could do a choice, but it's recommended by the maintenance is a year. And it's something we've had for years, they use this company for years, so.
So the total amount of the,
Is it the 2 year?
the 2-year,
Well, it's really a contract, I think it's annual, and it's really a contract, they won't bill until they do the first service. It's just a guaranteed price for the year. So that it's not has to be paid.
if they do the inspection on 462, if they do the inspection with the oil change, it's 2,300.
So there's one time they do both, oil change and inspection, and the second time they come in
get, I don't know here, as, Joe at front desk is going to be having some surgeries, and we need to see if he could supply us with a reserve officer on Wednesday the 8th, Monday the 13th, Wednesday the 15th, and April 22nd.
So I would email dates to me.
Okay, here they are, right here. There's your email. Oh, the 8th, I'm sorry. Scratch first. And thanks for doing that, because he's not going to be gone for a long time, but sometimes planning commission meetings want to make concessions. Okay, so then, George, you got something for us to do, right?
Partly is the first one.
Okay. This is Carmen's for the,
And I apologize, for you guys getting this information last
okay, this is for the patrol room, for the.
Control room and the adjoining offices. The both the sheriff was wanting to accept this 4558.14, which is the lowest quote.
We did, so I saw people sign your office, I didn't see it. Unrelated issues. Go ahead, George, sorry.
That's okay.
That's a total of $1,873.17.
No, that's actually, two separate quotes, one's for the main patrol room, and then the second one is for the adjoining offices, to combine them with 4558.14.
I got 39. 281 is happening. So you got Tudor. Gotcha.
The one you're looking at is version 40.
So you're recommending Tudor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the bid from Tudor at 3558.14. With the combination of
Two. I'll second that. Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Carried. And then we need a motion to pay for some welding work repair that's been done on some of the jail bars, preparation for the contract that we approved for the class repair last week, and that's in the amount of $1,850.
The original estimate on the class on the bars was, $17,000 for the bar repair.
the 1850, the number here.
Yes.
The pictures just show the damage
fuel use and the economy on the road.
Sorry.
Fuel use and economy on the road.
It's got the same motor in it, and so they did have a smaller motor that was in the sedan, but they eliminated that, and it cost for moving the
How about the dog handlers? They use the same type of vehicle, just like that metal cage in the back, right?
That, what the Explorer does is, in the past, we've had storage problems, obviously with the canines, but also with the SWAT officers, evidence officers, bond techs. Room is really limited in those cars, whereas the Explorer is giving us that option to have room. The evidence techs have a special cabinet in there, so where they keep their supplies. So it's all around just practical. And then the all-wheel drive is phenomenal.
All righty. Anything else?
Looks like there's something else.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Oh, you need that?
This one here, what picture?
I got the original.
Oh, you need another color picture? I've got black and white.
No, she got black and white too.
Correspondence, we have the treasurer's monthly report for February 28, 2015 on file. Annual operational report for local roads and streets from the highway department on file. Request for approval of official bond for David James, Porter County Highway Supervisor. The bond is in the amount of $8,500.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion is second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Request for additional appropriation to highway, Fund 1172-2293, $400,000 to 2362 bituminous, additional for asphalt, oil, and seal contract.
I'll make the motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have a request for approval from Brandon Atkins from, with the Discovery Charter Schools to block North Tremont Road and Canoni Drive for their annual fun run. The event will be held on February 29th, 2015. Is there somebody here for this?
May
I'm sorry, May 29th. No one's here for this? It says they're annual, so they must have done it before. So we hope they know they need to contact the sheriff's department and that they've got insurance to cover this event. I'll entertain a motion contingent on those two criteria.
I'll move it.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Request to approve a memorandum of understanding with Tall Tree Arboretum and the Porter County Wildlife Advisory Board for the Wildlife Festival celebration to be held on Saturday, May 30th, 2015. This is a change in location. Typically it was held at the Sunset Hill Park. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, motion carries. I'd like everyone to know that the Porter County Board of Commissioners has hired Pamela J. Courtney, who will become our new Human Resource Director. She's going to begin work on May the 4th, 11th, May the 11th. And in that same regard, Pam comes to us from Port Clinton, Ohio, where she was the Human Resource Director over there for a number of years. She's going to hit the ground running and hopefully get us straightened out in no time. So, in relation to that, we have a position available that we're posting today for a human resource assistant. So that will go up internally and locally today, and we'll start looking for a person to help in the HR department. And I think it's going to be a great plus to this county in general, and to our county attorney particularly. She won't have to do all somebody next year and all future years, a county manager's position. Everybody sits up here, with the exception of a couple people, are part-time employees. And the commissioners as part-time employees, and the council as part-time employees, don't really have all the time and energy we need, although we seem to make time for it, to take care of everything. A county manager would make everyone's job a lot easier, be able to keep us much better informed, the council much better informed, and the public much better informed, and be able to work on a much more timely manner for everyone's behalf. So that's my 2 cents. Anybody else have anything?
I would just like to throw in and concur with John. Being here, what, 3.5 months, 4 months now, there's a lot of moving parts in county government, a lot of moving parts, and I would echo John's sentiments on that as well. So,
Well, it's something that's already working in the city of Valpo, town of Chesterton, and I believe Portage as well. I'm not sure about Portage, but it's really something that would add to the government experience for the general public. So, anything else? Did I miss anything? Anybody wishing to address this body? Michael? Oh, I'm sorry. I made you sit there and wait that whole time. I'm sorry. Michael's going to talk to us about the air conditioners and we're going to talk about the chiller at the jail as well.
Yes. Good afternoon. A couple of weeks ago, I was asked to take a look and work with Jerry Bryan. Take a look at the rooftop units on top of the courthouse and this building, the administration building. As you recall, 2 years ago, we did replace 1 unit in each of those 2 buildings. They were ready to fail. The other ones at the time were adequate, so we didn't do those. Now the chicken has come home to roost, so to speak. And the compressor motor up on the courthouse is bad. The system's been opened up to the air as far as all the coils and everything. On top of this building, Jerry and I also went up there. They got some serious leaks in the coils and quite possibly the motor. You can see stains that it's replaced. So we did an analysis of cost of repair versus putting in new. And both of our train units, and we talked to the train reps, we're hovering somewhere $80,000 apiece. It's pretty big units. And there's no guarantee that something else won't break on the bottom. Matter of fact, a little history on it. One was put in 1992, and the other was 1994. Typically expected lifespan on these pieces of equipment are about 15 to 20 years. So we certainly, we've got those years out of it. So having said it's about 80,000 to do those, we went back to the records for the ones we replaced. Mind you, these may be subject to change, but I think it's for purposes of the ballpark. When we changed the rooftop unit on this building, it was about $176,000. The one on the courthouse was about $158,000. And before you can ask me any questions you'd like to discuss, talking out there, you also have a chiller out in the jail. We did replace one of those about a year ago. The second one, the cost of that was about $112,000. I would put that priority-wise accurate for rooftop units, of course. It's something for you to consider. Entertain any questions you might have.
yeah, Mike, being in the business that I am in with construction, general contracting, train is pretty much the top of the line as far as when you get into big equipment like that. Throwing this out to the other 2 commissioners, would we entertain some different manufacturers and some other type of manufacturers out there that would be at a lower cost point, but that would still have the same qualifications and specs on the units?
As we put them together as we did before, we'll come up with 3 that we have a long history with, and then, of course, there's the more approved equipment that they have to meet that.
Typically, they'll spec the passages that we expect them to provide.
And the one up there, I forget the
I don't know, you know more than I do, but I know that the rooftop units on the courthouse are, half of them are new. So half of the courthouse is gonna have air conditioning at 95-degree days in August. And we only have one chiller at the jail, and if that chiller goes down, we're gonna have a whole jail without air conditioning.
Well, that's a little more on the chiller. There's two chillers that sit side by side. Like one will work and the other one will pick up when capacity's high, and then they're timed such that instead of this one starting first, this one, and it prolongs the life of your chillers so it's not running all the time. We don't eventually replace this one, you're gonna wear out the brand new one. And as far as the courthouse, there is one circuit running, there's two circuits inside each of the rooftop units. You're only running half the capacity, and that's what the whole lease of it.
I'd like to see us bid everything and, we can always scale back or decide what's more
We
critical.
can put optional bids if you consider.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, I'm just curious. I guess we better take bids on all those.
Because of the specifications for it, it's a bid. And we'll have to get the weight carrying. I realize things are, I don't know when that will take effect, but we'll have to at least have the weight carrying for common construction. Fortunately, this is a bad time to do this. You probably should have done this last fall.
And the work itself becomes problematic in that you can't put one of those cranes downtown on the weekday.
Well, they did it on Sunday.
Yeah. Do we need a motion to, approve the lighting up the minute?
Well, for the purpose,
I think we ought to. So, let's have a motion to approve the lighting of the minute for the projects you just chose about.
I'll make a motion for the letting of it for the chiller at the jail and the rooftop unit at the courthouse and the rooftop unit here.
Is that correct? Motion is second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good, thanks, Michael, I apologize for I was looking over there every once in a while, but I couldn't figure out what you're doing here. Anyone else, anybody wish to address this body? Anyone? Going? Okay.
That we just received a notice from the state yesterday that the additional appropriations have been approved fully from January and February.
Okay.
So all the bandaging that we tried to do, especially with the highway department,
Yeah.
the funding has now been put in.
Great, we appreciate all your help in that.
Well.
So, you mean David's gonna quit hitting us up for lunch money now?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.